All right, welcome. We're going to jump right into a really powerful idea, one that's kind of hiding in plain sight at the heart of the Christmas story. And honestly, it might just flip your whole worldview on its head. We're talking about this idea that Christmas is all about the end of separation.
So let's start with a question, one that I think a lot of us have asked ourselves at some point, maybe without even realizing it. When you think about God, where is God? In your mind's eye. Is God way up there? Out there somewhere? Just separate from us?
For a long, long time, and really in a lot of different traditions, the common picture is of a God who is, well, totally separate, a divine being that's kind of remote, outside of our world, and definitely removed from all the messy stuff of our day-to-day lives.
But then you have Christmas, and Christmas comes along and just completely shatters that whole idea. It's a radical challenge to that old view. It doesn't suggest separation at all. In fact, it suggests the total opposite, this incredible collapse into union.
Think about it. The divine didn't just, send a memo or pop in for a quick visit. No way. The idea here is a full immersion, a complete dive into the human experience. It became flesh. We're talking total integration here, not some kind of detached cosmic observation from afar. And this is where you can really see that shift in thinking. The whole old paradigm of separation, it gets totally replaced by this new reality of union. So instead of God being above, God is with. Instead of being distant, God is intimate. And instead of being external, God is within. The entire framework just gets flipped on its head. It's a huge deal.
I love how the theologian Richard Rohr puts this. He says, this event shows us that the hiding place of God was never some far-off, distant heaven. Nope, it was right here all along, inside human life itself. So in Jesus' divinity and humanity, they're not two separate things anymore. They're shown to be one single, inseparable reality.
Okay, so if this incredible union happened in one person, you might be thinking, is that it? Was that just a one-time exclusive deal? Well, what's really fascinating is that the language used in the scriptures points to something much, much bigger, something way more inclusive.
And it comes down to one very specific word choice. Check this out. The text doesn't say only born, it says firstborn. And that one little word, well, it changes everything. It has huge implications for every single one of us.
See, the word firstborn automatically implies a family, right? It means there are others to come. This reframes our role completely. We're not just spectators watching from the sidelines, we're invited in as younger siblings, part of the same family, sharing the same reality. And this is the key takeaway. Jesus isn't the exception to the rule, he's the example of a new rule that applies to all of us. So if we're all invited into this divine family, that leads to the next big question. What does that even mean? What kind of identity are we being invited to share? And to answer that, we have to look at some of the most powerful and maybe even shocking things that Jesus himself said.
First up, you have this absolutely mind-blowing claim of complete unity with the divine source. He doesn't say he's similar to God or even just connected to God. He says they are one. But then he takes it a massive step further. In this prayer, he basically asks for that exact same oneness to be a reality for everyone, for all of us. He's literally praying that we might all experience the same kind of unity that he does.
And then comes the mic drop. Quoting the Psalms, he affirms the most radical idea of all, that the divine isn't just for you or with you, but it's in you. That our very nature, your very nature, has a divine spark.
So what does all this mean? What's the big takeaway? Well, it completely shifts our spiritual focus, doesn't it? Maybe the great human struggle isn't about trying to find some absent God who's hiding from us. Maybe it's just about waking up to the God who is already here, right now, within us.
Okay, that's a pretty big idea. So let's bring it down to earth a bit. How does this huge shift in thinking actually translate into a new way of living, like day to day? How do we actually live out this reality of union?
Well, the invitation here, the real message of Christmas, might be to just stop. Stop acting like we're these distant seekers trying to find something we lost ages ago. Instead, we're invited to live as active participants, to live from this divine human union, knowing it's already the truth of who we are. And man, that changes everything.
So this really invites some personal reflection for you and for me. Just think about your own spiritual life for a second. Where is your focus? Are you always looking for God out there somewhere? Or are you looking for God right here, in the middle of your actual lived experience? In your job, in your family, even in your biggest challenges.
And of course, this also completely changes how we see other people, because if the divine is within us, well, then it has to be within everyone else too. So the real challenge becomes, how can we learn to see that divine spark in other people, especially when their flaws are staring us right in the face? This view asks us to look for something sacred even in the person we find it hardest to love.
And finally, we have to turn that lens back on ourselves. How do we handle our own limitations? How can we be gentle with ourselves and embrace our imperfections with some compassion while still trying to live from that deeper, truer, human divine identity that we have? It really suggests that the path forward isn't about beating ourselves up, but about self-acceptance.
And all of this leaves us with one last big, provocative question to just sit with. Seriously, what would change? What in your life, in how you see the world, in your relationships? What would fundamentally change if you stopped seeking a God who is out there and started recognizing the God who is already right here within?